Welcome to MezFi Meets, a podcast where we bring you conversations from the cutting edge of blockchain, AI, financial services, and property. I'm your host, Donna, the CEO of MezFi. MezFi is an investment manager in Australia. If you'd like to find out more about us and our products, go to www.mezfi.com. In today's episode, we interview the team from Sonar, an ambitious DeFi wallet project that aims to unify a number of different chains together, as well as CeFi and DeFi, informational tools, and everything else you need on your DeFi journey, all in one platform. If you like our content, please consider liking and subscribing. Let's jump into today's episode. Hey everyone, it's MezFi Meets, Donna, the CEO of MezFi, here today with the team from Sonar. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Very good, thanks.
Nice to meet you all. Now, I actually met the esteemed Donna McConnell here at the Australian DeFi Association meetup a few months ago now. Donna was giving a presentation on the Sonar platform, and I was absolutely blown away by the tech, by the vision, by the innovation of what was going on there. And so when Donna said to me that you guys would be excited to jump on a podcast, I was really excited to meet with you guys because I just think what you're doing is amazing. Having gotten into DeFi myself a few years ago, if things were a bit simpler, I think it would have been great. So I guess my first question to you all is, I know that back in 2021, Sonar was started as an education group. How was it that you guys all met and sort of brought that group together? And then how did it go from there to what's one of the, leading sort of technological wallets and platforms for DeFi and CeFi?
That's quite interesting how it started because the proper first group was started was actually a group of people that were scammed in some kind of cryptocurrency project or something. And the aim was to help educate these people and help educate ourselves. So we were helping people out. Obviously, these people were there inviting other friends, asking questions, trying to learn about DeFi. Because in the space, especially at that time in 2020, 2021, there were a lot of new people in the space, right? Even more than today, a lot of people coming in. And most of the times, most of these people had no idea what they're doing. So it actually started simply, as you said, as an education and Telegram group where we're just helping people out. And as time went by, this quickly grew to over 20,000 people. And that is where the idea of Sonar was born, practically by being investors ourselves, by being DeFi enthusiasts ourselves, by looking at what these people were asking for, by understanding their needs. It helped us realize what was missing in this space and start Sonar.
So that's amazing, Jacob. I really, it's amazing to hear how many people were super interested in education for DeFi. I mean, 20,000 people in a group back in 2021. I mean, that's a lot. And I've been scammed a couple of times myself, so I understand the need for that. So how did you guys meet then? Like, how was the team? How did the team come together?
Yes. And look, we are DeFi users, DeFi enthusiasts. So we actually met in this way. We met through Telegram, getting in different projects and investing in different projects. And, you build a network practically. You build a network through the space. And that is where I met Mike and Cristiano. And that is when we started this Telegram group, right? Then later on, a few months after, we also met Iwan. And it was certainly something that helped us a lot. I mean, Iwan has been amazing to us as well. And he decided to form part of our team.
Nice one. So then let me understand then what role everybody plays. So Jacob, you're the CEO of Sonar. Iwan, you're the chairman and the COO, the chief operations officer. So what is it that you do as part of the the team of Sonar then?
I'm simply the oldest. That's my role.
Okay.
As I said before, like I've been, I've been living and working in Asia for 25 years. I was, part of C-suite for multinationals and Fortune 500 companies. Got into crypto in 2012, and actually founded, the first blockchain software development company in Thailand in 2017.
Wow.
And there, we were building solutions for a mutual fund trading platform and for real estate platforms and contract management and animal conservation, preservation, and stuff like that. And so I've been in the space, very active since 2015 on different projects and helping different projects. And, from Blockchain Labs back in Thailand, I also founded a consultancy company to help startups. And really that's how, Jacob and Mike and Cristiano got in touch with me and said like, hey, we've got this great idea, we've got this great project, we've got this awesome community, but we need some help. And like I said, I've been, working with startups for, throughout throughout the 35 years that I've been working, but also for multinationals. I have a wide variety of experience in terms of, software development and operations management and company management and setting up companies. And it was really, that initially I joined as an advisor, just helping the guys, you need a business plan, you need financials. How do we structure that? How do we go out to the markets? How do we go out to investors? And very quickly, I would say within 3 or 4 months, it was like, okay, this is a really interesting project. And I actually want to be a lot more involved than just providing some consulting to the management team. And that very quickly evolved into more than a full-time job, I would say. Where now I have to talk to Jacob 12 hours a day, every day, but lovingly so. No, it's an awesome team. It's an awesome project. It's desperately needed in this space, and I know that Jacob will dig into the product, but what we're doing is ultimately, hopefully, going to help define the next generation of technology and users and everything else. So, very, very excited to be part of it.
Yeah, amazing. So I'll just, I guess listeners may not have heard of Sonar before. So, like I said before, the thing that sort of jumped out at me about Sonar was, you guys run across 18 plus chains. You've got native, data on individual projects. And I think that was, from what you said, how people had been scammed. And that was why they were jumping in these groups. I mean, that's one of the best things that I could see about Sonar is being able to see that analytics on tokens to see, is the contract, does it have vulnerabilities? Is there malicious code in there to where they could potentially do something bad? You guys have all of this analytic data that's so necessary for people getting into the DeFi space. I mean, what a monster of a project to build together. Like, how ambitious are you guys to take this on? Seriously.
That's tough.
Well, it is. Yes. But like I said, it started from when we had it, and we are realizing much more clearly the problems that persist in this space, right? And I think it goes back to the promise of DeFi. And the first, and the promise of Bitcoin, which is to be in control of your own financial future. It's banking the unbanked. So it practically means that if you have a mobile, if you have Wi-Fi, you should be able to access DeFi. And the problem is that right now, DeFi is not that accessible. There's so many steps that you have to learn, so many risks that you have to undertake. Tools are so scattered around the space that you don't know where to start from. And this is holding back millions and millions of users from possibly joining the DeFi space. And that is practically our mission. We call it borderless finance. So it is to build a world without financial barriers. So practically give the people the tools to control their own financial future. And that is the mission that we have been building upon since we started.
Yeah, well, it's a very noble mission, I have to say, and I agree with you. DeFi, it has so much potential. I guess one thing that I'd ask, and I'm not sure if I said it before the podcast, but I might ask a couple of controversial questions. I hope you don't mind. But what about AML? What about anti-money laundering? And KYC. Is there any any capabilities for those kinds of checks and balances within the Sonar platform? And do you see any need for that within DeFi? I guess.
Well, the way it is right now, we are giving analytical tools. So in terms of Sonar in itself, we are not custodians of anyone's funds. We do not touch anyone's funds in any way. We are looking at on-chain data and presenting to you in an understandable manner. We are giving you news, academic articles, the ability to see the trends, to check charts, to check the contract filters, like you said. So at this point, as it stands, no, there is absolutely no requirement for you to do so. Then that is not our intention in general. As we go on, in the future plans, we do intend to integrate even centralized exchange data, for example, or the ability to trade between CeFi and DeFi. But we will never be custodians of the customer's funds.
Okay, I understand. So you're an aggregator of technology, of other platforms, as well as a facilitator of getting into the protocols within the DeFi space.
Yeah, I mean, the end game is very simple. It's your home for Web3.
Yeah.
So yes, there are the innate, let's say, the natively built apps that are ours, built up on our own infrastructure, but it's also the home for any other projects that wants to integrate and assimilate into what is a very composable product. So the end game is that anyone who wants to interact with crypto in general, whether it's CeFi, DeFi, whatever, you sit down and the first thing you open is Sonar, and from Sonar you have everything.
Yeah, no, I mean, as I said before, it's extremely ambitious, and I look forward to using the tool a lot myself. I've already suggested to a couple of friends of mine who used to be, before a few months ago, normies, and now starting to become a bit more crypto native. They were asking about meme coins and all of this, and I said, have a look at Sonar. Like, go and have a look at Sonar. I know they've got a lot of interesting tools and everything. So yeah, I think it's going to be great to as you guys go along. And I guess the question is, where in that product life cycle are you guys? Because I know I've read your white paper, and that at the beginning, you have the Sonar Studio, and then it's into the the unification, unify, and then finally into the Web3 portal. Was it Web3 portal? I might be wrong about that, but yeah. So where on that journey do you guys sit right now?
We are on the first part of it. So right now, the official launch of Sonar Studio, which is the first step, will be in a few months. Right now, obviously, the product is still out there, still usable, but officially it's in public beta. But we still got 120 active users right now. But the official launch of it, which will make the addition of the wallet and the portfolio analytics and the general refinement and addition of some little stuff, will be in a couple of months from now. And that is intended at step one, which is practically the DeFi tools you need, all the DeFi tools that you need, okay? Whether it's swaps, learn, trade, whatever. Then the next step, as we said, we call it Sonar Terminal. It evolves into Sonar Terminal. So it's all that Studio is today, plus it will include the centralized exchange data, centralized exchange fees, aggregated views. So, for example, if you're looking at portfolio analytics, you might have the same problem today. You probably have, let's say, $100 on Binance. You have $100 in your MetaMask, $100 in your Phantom wallet, something else on your Bybit or KuCoin, whatever.
Yeah,
that is the reality of the users of the space. So the second step, which will take most of the next year practically, we're aggregating all these tools. Well, you'll be able to trade across exchanges, see the analytical data on different tokens across exchanges, arbitrage, look at aggregated portfolio. And that is why we call it unified finance. It's the combination of CeFi and DeFi in one space. Then, and the more long-term plan is our end game, which we call the Sonar Portal. So all this will evolve into the Sonar Portal. So it's all that we mentioned. But over and above that, we'll have our own dApp store. where other projects still, upload their apps and so on, will have the AI copilot and stuff. So it becomes like your, let's see, desktop, your that's like what your home for Web3. Um, and yeah, that is the end game practically.
To add a little bit to that, because when we talk about App Store or App Store, everyone thinks about like a Google App Store or an iPhone App Store, or an Apple App Store. What we're talking about is an App Store within Portal, that every app that you load is actually an addition to what you have in Portal. So you can use these apps together with the Portal functionality. So it really becomes a customized or highly customized version of your Portal into Web3, and that's why it is the home for Web3. Like the expectation is, if you're a Web3 user and you want to trade, or you want to look at games, or you want to go into SocialFi, whatever, you open Sonar Portal and it is there for you with the apps that you have selected on top of all of the CeFi and DeFi information. So it's a fully integrated platform. So it's not just another app that you would have to install on your computer. It is literally one platform that services all, depending on the need of the user. So
it's sort of like a web browser that integrates, for Web3, that integrates the tools that you need to navigate it safely and well.
Exactly. Yeah. It would be one app that you install on your phone or your computer, which is, as you said, basically a browser that is completely configurable with the various apps that we have in the App Store.
Wonderful. Well, look, Donna, you haven't spoken much yet, and you normally speak a lot in very, and I mean that in a very positive way, because you're a much beloved part of our Web3 community here in Melbourne, having been associated with a number of different projects across time. But I'm interested to find out, how you met the Sonar guys, and because obviously you're passionate about the project, as was evidenced, and I could see very clearly when you're presenting on it. So yeah, how did you meet the Sonar guys?
So you mentioned before about scams, rug pulls, you name it, and I call it the baptismal fire of crypto. So, what was it, 2020? I had one of the OGs reach out to me to say, hey, have a look at this project. They seem to be, working on something that, or their vision is helping people in DeFi learn more about, how to trade safely. So this OG had got me to, download this Telegram, and I started reading everything that was being posted from the community and the team. And they had one of their AMAs, and at the time I thought, oh, this is another one of those scam projects. But then I actually heard the boys talk. First was Jacob talking about Sonar and the vision of Sonar, and what it means for not just the team but the community, and getting the community involved in the project. And then I'm like, oh, I wonder how this will work. And then Mike came on, and that was sort of like, bang, I'm sold. He delivered, or when he spoke about Sonar, it really resonated with me, because he wanted to have more women, as well as, looking at the space to bank the unbanked. And that's really what intrigued me, is how can you do this with, having not knowing anything about Web3, DeFi. The only thing I knew was Bitcoin at that time.
Yeah.
And then I started really looking into the Web3 space from the point of being rugged and just following the transactions but learning through Sonar a lot about the space is really what resonated with me. So I think even, what was it, a few months later, Mike asked me if I wanted to join the team as a mod. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll, jump in and have a look and see what it's all about. And yeah, from that, I really got an understanding more of what Sonar could offer and its vision.
I mean, yeah, no, it's a very familiar story in Web3. We talk about how, Web3 is an ecosystem and an environment where, everyone lifts each other up. I mean, like, screw the scammers, they're assholes, and, they're horrible. But apart from the scammers, generally speaking, Web3 is such a positive place. It's like, and we all, through Telegram, through all of our different sort of channels, we're all pushed into or, intrigued by different things, and we meet and we, it's all this very interoperable, interwoven thing and so global. I mean, Ivan, you're there in Thailand. Jacob, where are you at, my friend? Where I didn't actually ask.
Malta.
Say once again.
Oh, Malta.
Malta. There you go. Malta, yeah. Melbourne. Like all over the world, and it's just such a, from the outside, a lot of people think that we're, this Web3 space is, full of grifters and everything, but we're this really, distributed, positive group of people that, really, really want to change the world, in a really positive way. And you guys are doing a great job, with what you're doing. I'd love to find out, I mean, for a platform that has, all of these analytics and, you guys are looking at scams. I mean, what are you seeing as the, sort of the trends in DeFi right now? What do you reckon? Where are things going?
Oh, this was an easy question to answer. Look, if anything, DeFi always has temporary trends, right? Yeah, there's always like there's the NFT boom and the metaverse boom and the AI movement. Those are normal hype cycles. I think, and you can never be sure what the next hype is going to be. At the end of the day, what matters is that these cycles, as called them, represent a big group of people, of technically 70 people that are innovating within that sector. And at the end of the day, yes, out of 100 things that come up, maybe 95 of them don't make it. But there's that fact that are going to make it, that are going to change the world in some way, change the space in some way. And that is the normal cycle of innovation. So, yeah, I cannot say what's the next trend tomorrow or maybe next month. However, for sure, we are seeing more and more how blockchain technologies is starting to get integrated within real life, practically. Well, whether it's through RWA projects, whether it's through AI itself, whether it's through integrating blockchain. I mean, Mick is not here, but it's used blockchain to build supply chains to track coffee from farmers in Asia to around the world. So as time goes by, people are using more and more that crypto and blockchain are here to stay and are being integrated in our everyday life more and more. So yeah, I wouldn't say I know what the next trend is or what the next hype is, but for sure, DeFi is one of the main, let's say, owners of the next, let's say, financial world that we live in.
Can I just ask a question? Sure. How does regulatory, like the regulatory attention, how does that impact on the DeFi space, or really the whole ecosystem altogether, from your point of view?
I think from my personal point of view, there is a degree of regulation that is simply needed in the space. Unfortunately, maybe for some people, yes, I'm from the early days of crypto, and it was all about decentralization, etc. But the reality is that a lot of crypto today that claims to be decentralized isn't decentralized. It's very, very centralized. Look at, launchpads is a great example. You have a handful of launchpads that are basically determining which projects get launched. And that means within that handful of launchpads, it's a handful of people. And there we're talking about 30, 40 people around the world that are making decisions on what the next project is, what the next big hype is. That's not decentralization. That is extreme centralization. And a lot of these people are not even doxed, so you don't even know who they are. There is a degree of regulation required to allow this space to grow and to allow this, like banking the unbanked, to actually take place. The crypto is awesome. Like I've used it like even with my mother, and my mother's 80 years old, and I can send crypto to her and do an international transfer between Belgium and Thailand in 1 second. There isn't a bank in the world that can do that. And, I've worked in Asia for a very long time. And like Mike, who was working with impoverished farmers and helping them, I've worked with those kind of projects in Asia as well. And there's a lot of people here that simply are not bankable, not because they don't have funds, but because their funds are so limited that the bank doesn't care. They're not a customer because it would cost the bank money to have them as a customer. But these people will buy. These people do have funds. These people do transfer money. And right now they're forced into existing money transfer companies that are very expensive, that take a long time. Banks sometimes, like I've done fund transfers from Hong Kong to Belgium that took 2-3 weeks if it arrived, and sometimes it didn't arrive. Like there is so much that crypto can do there, and yes, there needs to be a degree of regulation there. But again, I think a lot of people are fearful of regulation, and it isn't always necessary. Like if you're not planning to do anything criminal, why do you have something against AML processes? There is nothing to be fearful about. If you have a bank account, you've done a KYC and AML process. It is that simple. Unless you're talking about, I don't want someone to know what I'm doing, I'm trying to hide something. That is when, of course, KYC and AML processes become a problem. But for most people, and I would say the majority of users within crypto as a whole, they don't have an issue with this. And if you don't want people to find out, then we'll never KYC, which means keep your crypto within the Web3 space. Don't take it out of the space. Don't do your fiat on-off ramp, and no one will ever know what you're doing. But the moment you do fiat on off ramp means you're using a bank account. You've done KYC with the bank. You've done KYC with the centralized exchange. You've gone through these processes multiple times. So there is, there's a fear of the regulation, and I understand that, yes, and I agree 100% that we don't want the government to start deciding how this space needs to be run. But at the same time, there's a lot of scams that could have been easily avoided by knowing who the team behind the project is. And so if you look at MiCA regulations, for example, MiCA says as a project owner, you need to be known by the government. That doesn't mean that you need to be known by the project users, but it simply means that you have to have a company, and as a company, you are a doxed person to the government. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that you have to go out to a community of 1 million people and say, I'm Ivan and I'm behind this project. Now, we're doing it with Sonar, but I understand that some projects don't want to do that. But you know that those projects are registered with the government. And if something goes wrong, there is a recourse. MiCA, like any other regulation, doesn't guarantee that your project is going to be successful. That has nothing to do with it. It simply means that it is going to make sure that you're abiding by the rules and regulations and that you're not running away with the money. And if you do run away with the money, that there is recourse. I don't see that as a bad thing. Like everyone in this space at some point got scammed. And your recourse is chalk it up as lesson learned, chalk it up as, you said, the baptism of fire of Web3. Everyone's been through that. And people don't need to go through that. Yes, there is a learning curve, and you can invest in a project that just doesn't make it, but it shouldn't be because you get rug pulled. It shouldn't be because you get scammed. That is something that will prevent people from joining the space, or will force people out of the space very quickly. Like if you come into Web3 and you buy into a project, and immediately the next day that is rug pulled, you're like, what the hell am I doing here? Like your faith in crypto goes down the drain very, very quickly, and that is not a representation of the space, but that is just your initial experience. So yes, as a community, as an international community, that is something we do need to care about, and therefore regulation can help with that. So I'm personally, and again, this was personal, me personally,
Yeah.
I'm in favor of a degree of regulation, yes, to weed out these kind of problems so that the next wave of users, there are billions of people that haven't even touched crypto. They are going to come. We need to be ready for them, and regulation can help with that. Anyway, my two cents.
That's true. No, that's great. That's very, very helpful and very articulate too. Look, a lot of people, Bitcoin maxis particularly, are very against regulation. And crypto for them is this real ideological place of, where cypherpunks, where anti-government. Crypto was created because we can't trust governments, number one, with printing money. Number two, you talk about KYC, AML. Number two, we can't trust governments with our identity data because, what are they going to do with it? Or maybe not governments, but also organizations, and here in Australia, there's been some really huge identity hacks recently, where lots of identity data has been released. And so, KYC, AML, some people say, and again, this isn't my views, by the way, this is just, these are things that I know in the space. People worry, it's like, why would I give you my KYC data and reveal who I am to you? What are you going to do with that data? You say it's secure, but is it secure? And then, so in some ways, Bitcoin was created against that KYC AML. I know it's not anonymous, it's pseudonymous, obviously. But there is that element of crypto that I think will always exist, where it's this push and pull of anti-government, anti-establishment, and then also this other side where we're trying to normalize everything.
I agree, but and I'm also not against that. Like I'm not saying like, hey, everyone should be known and everyone should be doxxed. Absolutely not. But I've had these arguments throughout the years. That, like I said, I've been about 12 years in crypto. I've heard these arguments throughout the years where people are saying, yeah, but I don't need the government to know who I am. The government already knows who you are. The moment you're born is when you're telling the government who you are. Like there's nothing secret there. It has more to do with how, and I agree with that point. And especially to me, it's more towards banks than the government. I see banks more and more around the world deciding how people get to use their own money. Now that is wrong, 100%. Like that, and they're absolutely, that should never happen in crypto. Like crypto, the decentralized nature makes sense. Like you should be in charge of your own funds. You should make the decisions. It is also a downside of crypto that people need to realize that they have to be their own bank. But a bank should never tell you how much you can withdraw out of your account, how you're going to spend it. You shouldn't have to explain to a bank why you need to withdraw money. Like these things are ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
That I've seen as an evolution of banks. So there, I 100% agree that should be decentralized and should never be controlled. Like why, who is the bank that they can tell me what I can purchase or cannot purchase? 100% agree on that. When it comes to identity, yes, and again, a lot of this is failure of existing systems with identity theft. But if it's like,
totally.
I don't want the government to know who I am, the government knows who you are. They're the ones that give you an ID card. They're the ones that give you a passport. Like they know, they give your marriage certificate, your birth certificate. Like they know 100% who you are. But when it comes about how you use your money, I understand, and I do agree that you should have the right to not disclose that 100%. Again,
that's the difference. In terms of legislation, I always say that there are two extremes. Okay, there's anarchy on the one side, and then there's let's say an obstacle to innovation on the other. So too much regulation leads to less innovation, and solution no regulation leads to an anarchy state, particularly if one does what he wants, and this is the Wild West. So, back Ivan, I do agree with the degree of regulation, mostly targeted towards project owners, and that is, I think, the point that is so important. Yes, maybe for someone who's at home and has a Bitcoin, why should anyone know what he's doing with it? It's fine, I understand. But in terms of project owners, it is important to be regulated. It is important, though, to be regulated in a way which is efficient. If you want a license, it's efficient. If you want, it's not too expensive, because all these things then hamper innovation. If myself as a project owner, I know immediately out of the, as soon as I start that I don't know, getting the license is going to cost $1 million or it's going to take a year. Immediately, that's tempers innovation because I'm not going to do it.
No.
So as long as it is efficient, it is affordable and makes sense, and is not hampering innovation, actually, regulation on project owners or on company owners for that is actually very important. So that I think is what people need to distinguish the difference between regulation or regulation. Over-regulation does not help you temper innovation, but a degree of innovation of regulation is actually helping you, especially if it's targeted towards the ones that are issuing the token.
No, I agree. And so then I guess the question is, so are you guys regulated under MiCA then? Is that, have you applied for I guess you're not a project really, you're more of a platform. So I guess you don't, although you do have a token coming out. I mean, not that we should, we shouldn't talk about, we're not going to talk about suggesting people to invest in tokens or anything like that. But, it's a fact that you have Ping token. Is that released already, or it's going to release?
It's not yet released. Sorry, Jacob, you wanted to jump in? Okay. It's not yet released. I'll touch on the regulation part, and then Jacob can talk a very little bit about the token part. But yes, we are officially incorporated in Malta. So we are in the EU operational wise, and we are also incorporated in BVI, and that's where the token is run out of BVI at the moment. We are ready for MiCA regulations. Part of that is indeed having an entity in Europe, being doxed owners, etc. So we're 100% ready for that. And now that it is finally being implemented, we're applying for that MiCA regulation certification. And we're also applying for a VASP license. Now, we are applying for a VASP license because of certain transactions that can take place in the platform where we currently don't need a license, but just in case. Like, we want to make sure that just in case a license at some point becomes necessary, like I'll give you an example. Like there's an on-off ramp within Studio, so you can take your fiat currency, your US dollars or euros, and you can transfer them into cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever you want. And you can do the same in the reverse. Like you can take your cryptocurrency and transfer them into your bank account, into your local currency. Now, that is not something that we're managing at the moment. We're aggregating that. But if at any point in time there's a question about, well, because there is a very small percentage transaction fee on every transaction, does that put us in that territory? It's not clear right now, but that's why we said we'll just go for the license. So, we are not required to have a license, but we are going to go for the license just to make sure that all the bases are covered.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so you said VASP license. What is the VASP license? Sorry,
it's a virtual asset service provider. Sorry, it's a license for virtual asset service provider. So it basically means anyone that provides any services around buying or selling crypto or changing crypto from one to another actually falls within that license structure, and so requires what is called a VASP license. So
and that's in the MiCA regulations.
That is actually almost a global regulation now. So it's not just limited to MiCA. It is absolutely part of MiCA, but that is for most countries around the world that now applies. Like if a lot of crypto companies in Asia or in Singapore, because again, they have the regulation, you need a VASP license in Singapore. BVI, you also need a VASP license. Like, the whole of Europe, you need a VASP license if you're based in Europe. So it is becoming, it's not completely global, but it is becoming a global standard.
100%.
And again, this is
and it's been pushed a lot after FTX as well. I mean, it is, VASP is there to protect the user practically.
So it is a regulation that applies to the company, right? It is a regulation that applies to the company behind the token. So we have to, as part of that, you have to submit your business plans, you have to submit your financial plans, you have to submit, who you are and what you do and what your background is, etc., and how it's going to work and how the platform's going to perform and where the VASP would actually apply. And the government has to approve that before you're licensed, or before you're actually authorized to operate that service. So it is, again, user protection. That's all for us. It's all to do with user protection.
So I'm interested to know. I know in the white paper, you guys talk about a Ping token. I guess that's a native token that runs the platform. Has that been released yet? And if not, then when will it be released?
So we're currently in the ICO phase, and it will be listed later in the next weeks. So the ping token is practically the utility token of the entire platform. It's the fuel that fires up the entire platform. So it's the currency that is used for subscription payments. By holding it, you get incentives, you get free or waves discounts on complex tools. It's practically generating value through the increase in user base. So we're targeting 28 million users in 5 years. Those are 28 million potential holders/users of the token itself. And yes, we will list in a few weeks, and that's where the magic starts.
Very cool, very cool.
Yeah, and just on that note, because I don't think we talked about that before, but one of the things that we're also, like I said, we all kind of come from this background. Like we talked about Mike and how he was helping farmers with blockchain, and I was working with governments and other projects here. Like one of our goals is to also keep the cost of the platform extremely small, extremely low. So if you go to Sonar Studio today, everything you see there is free to use, except of course when you're swapping, because we're using an external service. There is a very small transaction fee on a swap or a bridge or a fiat on off ramp, but everything else like the charts and the academy and the newsroom and the trends is all free to use. The wallet is free to use. Now portfolio analytics, we talked about that a little bit. That will come out when our V1 launch happens in a couple of months. There will be a charge for that, but again, if you're a ping holder, you automatically get a discount. So our target price for portfolio analytics is about $10 a month in subscription fee. If you're a holder, that immediately drops to $6 a month. If you're a very large holder, or a whale as is known in the industry of ping, then that drops even further. Like that drops down to $2 or $3 a month. So it's all about the more ping you hold, the more benefits you get in the platform. It gets you access to extra services. It gets you access to discounted prices. It gets you access to like say an expanded watch list just because you're a holder. You don't have to pay extra for that, but just by the fact that you hold ping, you get these benefits within the platform.
Well, in the industry, utility is everything. So it sounds like the ping token will give you utility, which is good. And again, I'm not suggesting that anyone go out and buy it, and it's not financial advice, of course.
No.
However, it does sound very interesting. So that's really wonderful. That's awesome. Let me think if there's anything else that's interesting in what you guys are doing. I mean, there's so much. There's just so much in my head about Sonar, obviously. So the ping token, obviously, you guys have launching. What else is there? Tokenomics. I mean, you don't really need to talk about tokenomics too much, I guess.
If I may add something to what Ivan was saying before, I think it's interesting to note. When we're talking about accessibility, right, and banking the unbanked and accessing these hundreds of millions of users out there, especially when you look at the countries that are growing the most in terms of crypto adoption, Turkey, countries in Africa like Nigeria, Southeast Asia, these exactly Southeast Asia. These are all there's hundreds of millions of people that are actively getting into this space. And in order to access these people, there's a myriad of things that need to be done. And one of them, yes, Sonar is doing it, is combining everything in one space, making it easy to use. But that's just one. The second one is what Ivan mentioned, the cost. So right now, crypto is still very niche. The complex crypto tools that really give you the best insights are extremely expensive, and they're there for the 1%, or 0.1% of the population, and that is another problem that we're solving. And the third thing that we didn't get into, and we tend to forget, is language. And most crypto apps on tools are in English, and 80% of the world doesn't understand, write, read, or speak English.
Very true.
And that's something which we're already working on, and it's already available in nine or 10 languages right now, and it will increase in the next phase. So sometimes we tend to forget, in the West especially, like, oh, this app is cool, yeah, but you know what? There's 80% of the world that can't use this simply because of language. So by targeting these three things, we're obviously facilitating mass adoption of DeFi. And that is, at the end of the day, our entire aim.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, to that end, we've been going about 40 minutes, maybe a bit longer. I think we might be about time to wrap up, I would think. So it's a good segue actually into our last question, which is the feature question of MezFi Meets, which I ask everybody, which is for 3 tips. And considering that you guys are, building the accessibility for DeFi, you're trying to change the world of DeFi really by bringing these analytics to people. I'd love for maybe, give each or maybe together, Ivan and Jacob, maybe Donna as well, 3 tips for anyone listening today who wants to get into the world of DeFi safely.
I guess I'll kick it off. Educate yourself. Like use platforms like Sonar Academy within Sonar Studio. Educate yourself. Understand that if you get into crypto, you are your own bank. You are your own security advisor. There is no one there that's going to do it for you. So educate yourself. When you create a wallet, have multiple wallets. It's free. There's no reason not to. And treat one wallet as your bank vault. Treat one wallet as your savings account. Treat one wallet as your current account. Your current account, that's where you're going to play around. You don't keep a lot of money in there. Play around with that. Attached to projects that are maybe a bit questionable, use that wallet. If for whatever reason there's a questionable project connected to that wallet, destroy the wallet, start a new one. Your savings account, your second wallet, that is the one that connects to your vault. That is the one that moves money between, but never connects to projects you don't trust. That wallet is the one you use for highly trusted projects and for centralized exchanges, for example, where you're moving money between the exchange and your wallet. Your vault, that is where the bulk of your cash sits. That is where you keep, your crypto safe. It's a very simple principle that most people forget. It's easy to create multiple wallets. Within Sonar Wallet, you can create them all within the Sonar Wallet itself. You can have multiple wallets in there, multiple seed phrases, etc. But build that structure for yourself. Think about how a bank acts and act the same for yourself, because you have to protect yourself. So that would be my biggest tip, coming into Web3. First of all, educate yourself. Number 2, understand wallets are free. Create as many as you need to. Like I'm giving you the minimum you should have is 3. You can have 5, 6, 10, depending on how you interact with the space.
Amazing.
Okay.
Jacob, what do you think?
I was going to say, to add to that, I agree, educate yourself, as well as, I think, test with small amounts. Like when starting in this space, just test the waters with a small amount of capital. Obviously, it minimises the potential losses that, as you're learning how different platforms and protocols work.
Yeah, that's good advice for sure.
I'll end, I guess. I would say this. There are 2 aspects of human nature that work against each other most of the time, which is emotion and logic. And both are important parts of our life. If you're too logical and without emotion, it's not good. If you're too emotional and there's no logic, it's not good as well. When it comes to investments and buying and selling and in any way interacting with your finances, logic has to be the one that wins, not emotion. And that is a very, very essential thing. And it's actually probably the biggest reason that people get scammed or people lose money or people invest in the wrong things. Mostly it's because they are guided by emotion. So we hear about FOMO, right? We hear about hype. Hype is good. It means there's interest. But at the end of the day, you have to make and that is where educating yourself is related, right? What Ivan said. The more you educate yourself, the more you can use your logic and knowledge to make the right informed decision. I think making emotional decisions on with your finances is always the wrong thing to do. So evaluate and listen to your logic, to your brain, and to what you can conclude from what you understand. Do not follow what others say or where the hype is. Just try to understand what makes sense. So yeah, I think that would be my advice. Use your logic and knowledge above emotion when you're dealing with your finances.
Wonderful. That's extremely good advice. Almost financial advice, but again, we're not about giving financial advice here. Okay, well, Jacob, Ivan, and Donna, I've been extremely honored to have you here tonight for this episode of MezFi Meets. I am wowed by Sonar, by the platform that you guys are creating. And I'm just, really excited to see how this all pans out for you guys. One actually thing before we sign off, when you do have the dApp store one day, we didn't talk about MezFi at all. Offline maybe we will. I mean, MezFi is a tokenized mezzanine finance or second mortgage finance platform, and we tokenize with NFTs on ETH, and so we have a dApp that's finalized very soon. So I'm sure we could potentially integrate with you guys one day as well. So that's something to talk about in the future too.
Absolutely.
That sounds awesome.
Wonderful. All right. Amazing. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much, and girl, of course. Sorry, being inclusive. Thank you so much again to you all for a wonderful podcast episode. Really enjoyed it, and I hope to speak to you all very soon.
Thanks, Jerome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna, for organizing. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Jerome.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. If you want to find out more about MezFi, go to www.mezfi.com. Follow us on X, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. You can see our shorts there, and look forward to the next conversation, and see you then.